Good comics, everybody, and welcome to the weekly comic book discussion series where I explain through my years of reading comics the idea or concept or a character of or from comics to two guys who just didn't spend the time when they were children reading them and kind of have just a little bit of knowledge, if that, of what I'm talking about. So, you know, I am Sal.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Ben.
Did I actually mention the name of the show? Did I say it's Back Issues?
No.
I don't know.
Welcome to Back Issues.
He said, welcome to comics.
Welcome to comics.
Hey, comics!
The world of comics.
Of course, you may notice we're shooting in a comic book store. That's because we're filming on location at Funny Books Comics and stuff in Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey. If you want to learn more about this great comic book store, you can go to funnyrama.com. You may also want to stop by our sponsor,
Comics Fix.
ComicsFix.com, which the press describes as like the Netflix of independent comic book publishing. You pay one flat rate and you get unfettered access to hundreds of independent titles. It's a really great service. I am on there as well. You can check out my books there as well, and I don't see any extra revenue from mentioning it. I'm just saying, hey, I'm there and I like the service. So, you know, if we ever get sponsors, I want to have them be completely related to something we're doing here. Make it relevant, something that I would want to use, you know? Yeah. Similarly, if you want to check out a really cool comic book convention, you can stop on by the Garden State Comic Fest on August 23rd in Morristown. It's going to be at the Hyatt, and I covered that event. You can click the comic right here to check out that event of the first annual Garden State Comic Fest, and not less than a year later, they're doing the second show, and it's going to look to be pretty big, pretty exciting. We're going to be there.
Yep,
we're going to have a table.
Be there. Yep.
We're going to have at least one panel where we're going to do something. I don't know if it's going to be back issues or if it's going to be something else. We'll see. But whatever the hell it's going to be awesome. You should check it out.
I was about to say, we're going to do Replay. And I was like, we don't have a show called Replay.
But we will now, because that's a really good title. So check out the Garden State Comic Fest. If you can go to the website right there, GardenStateComicFest.com. Check them out on Twitter, Facebook, all that social media garbage. And so today, or this week, I want to talk about a comic book that started out in humble beginnings. It was the flagship title for a brand new comic book publisher, for the illustrious, the indomitable.
Indomitable?
Yeah, he is indomitable.
The spearheading.
This guy, Todd Mcfarlane, superstar artist, superstar creator, invents Spawn. Here's my copy of Spawn #1 that I procured thanks to my grandma. No longer with us, but she lived in Brooklyn. She had a little apartment right in Brooklyn, and there was going to be a comic book convention. I read comics back in like the early 90s.
I was going to say, was this one of those really early conventions?
It was one of those episodes, like the church. In fact, I believe it was in a church basement. If you don't know what we're talking about, click Spawn to check out the last episode of Back Issues where we talk about Comic Cons, and I think we make fun of some people who go to them, so it's very kind of complimentary. So she saw that I read comics, and she was like, you know, if you want me to get some comic books for you, I can always go. It's at the church that I go to. I'll just go to the basement and I'll pick up some comics for you. And I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, and I'm like, okay, and I made this list of like Spawn comics. Like, first of all, it was incredibly popular. Second of all, they were probably pretty expensive. And third of all, it was Spawn.
Right.
Like, my 100-year-old Italian grandmother did not understand, nor was she going to, this concept.
But you were 10.
I was 10.
She didn't look through it, right?
No.
When she bought them? So
no, she just threw them in a grocery bag, put that on top of her wheel cart thing full of her groceries.
Who's this man that looks like a sausage?
Yeah. And then the next time we went to Brooklyn, she was like, here you go. I'm like, oh my god. She actually delivered the goods. And my parents were like, why did you make your grandmother get these? What the hell's wrong with you? I ask myself that question every time I see this copy. But yeah, this is my...
She volunteered.
She did. She was like, you want me to get you something? And I was like, yes, I do. Because my local comic book store at the time was, like, tapped out. Because at the time...
Because Spawn was flying
off the shelves. Yeah. Humble beginnings in 1992. By 1997... Spawn had become a household name. Spawn had become a cultural phenomenon.
When was the movie?
The movie was 1997.
Because that was the first time I heard about Spawn.
Well, but I'm saying 1997 was like the time. It was like the year of Spawn. I think that's actually what they called it. And when I say they, I mean the guys who made Spawn.
Right?
Yeah, not all of USA.
No, no, I don't think President Clinton was like, it's the year of Spawn. By 1997, Spawn had spawned an action figure line, a movie, an HBO cartoon series, not to mention its huge comic book series.
Todd McFarlane is really famous for his action figure lines.
Yes, Todd McFarlane spun out of Spawn and then abandoned comics almost entirely to make really heightened, reality-looking action figures.
Yep.
The
Which
guy
makes sense because that's what Spawn is a cool-looking thing.
That's the thing. He took that.
That's what he really brought to the table.
It's true.
Was a cool drawing. Not
Well, how much you want to bet he
an
saw
awesome character,
all these
but-
great action figures from comic books? And he's just like, this looks nothing like the comic.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
this image right here, I
Yeah.
want this in my hand.
Yeah.
Well, he's clearly about the art.
Oh, he's all about the art. Image is all about the image itself. Spawn became his huge action figure line, which originally, by the way, was called Todd Toys, and they dropped that company name because there was going to be a doll called Todd for girls that was going to be like the Barbie, but like like the boy equivalent.
Okay.
It wasn't Ken. It wasn't made by Mattel. But
Right.
it was the Todd doll, and he was worried that the Todd doll that no one bought, remembers, or exists today would somehow conflict with his company name,
So he
Todd
abandoned
Toys.
it.
So he changed it to McFarlane Toys. If I can't have Todd Toys, I'll have it McFarlane Toys.
Look, I'll be fair. McFarlane Toys, does stand out more.
Oh, man.
It sounds like a more legitimate.
But it has to be named after himself.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Oh, well,
Why
yeah.
wouldn't he?
Right?
Well,
it's
other
my
than that, it would
company.
have to be Spawn Toys.
Yes, which is actually what they sold for the first couple of years of their
Did they
company.
make exclusively like Image toys?
They did. He made a deal with a couple of his friends, and they made a bunch of like different Image books. I have the Max, an action figure from that series,
With these giant feet and hands.
and his like claw is a middle finger. He's pretty cool
That
if you
sounds
look at him.
badass.
But is that part of his hand, or is
Oh,
that
yeah.
just the thing that comes out the back of his hand?
No, it's not like Wolverine. Like it's if you look at his fist from like this perspective, it looks like it's this.
Like he just has two fingers?
Like his middle finger is a huge claw.
Oh, it just sticks out more than the other one.
But it's
Yeah.
also really wide.
It is
It makes
wide.
his hand look weird.
It's very bizarre. It's a weird design. But let's not talk about the Max because
Yeah,
that's a
no.
whole nother
No,
show.
we're not doing the Max.
So
well,
Spawn.
the Max might not be a whole nother show. It's like a 5-minute.
Yeah, we could do like a PS at the end. Oh, by the way, the Max was stupid. Anyway, thanks for watching.
They're still making the Max, right?
No. They're rebooting.
Because there's
the
an
Max.
issue of it like up here.
Yes, Sam Keith, the creator, writer, and artist of the Max, he like did the Max and he finished it. Like he wrapped it up. I think it took like 50 or 60 issues, and he's like, "All right, that's enough. I don't give a shit." And like 20 years later, one of the independent publishers that isn't Image said, "You know, it'd be cool if we like recolored it, like with modern coloring techniques,
Oh.
and then released it. What do you say?" Because everything under Image was owned by the creators, so it's no infringement against Image or anything.
Right.
And Sam Keith said, "If you think someone will buy it, I'm down, but I don't understand why anyone would buy it."
And is anybody buying it?
I'm not.
Well,
But I loved the Max when it first came
well,
out.
when it first came out. Now you think it's dumb.
Not necessarily the
There's probably
cartoon
some
show,
people
though.
who
That
still-
cartoon, though, is fucking awesome.
Yeah?
The Max, the cartoon series from MTV, I love that show, and it really encompasses, I think it's like the first 12 issues of the book, and that's really exactly as long as the Max should have been.
I gotta say,
Perfect ending, great voice acting, terrific animation, and so on point. It was like a literal adaptation of the comic. No one will ever be able to have an adaptation like that ever again.
the comic is bizarre.
Oh yeah,
Like, it's really weird.
completely
It-
off the rails.
It flies around from point A to point
Yeah.
X at times, but I never got to see it in its chronological order.
Oh.
Because I didn't have cable when I was young. So when it showed up on MTV, on liquid television...
Yeah, on MTV's Oddities.
Yeah.
It was paired with The Head.
Oh,
Do you remember
and,
The Head?
and
I
Aeon
don't.
Flux.
I do not remember.
Yeah. Man, that was an awesome block.
But I never got to see it in its entirety. So I got to see like 3 episodes or 4 episodes,
Oh, if
and
you
they
see
were
anything
out of order.
you're fucked.
And I was just like, what is happening? Who is this?
Yeah. It's
Why does he exist in the modern world and also in this primal jungle?
Yeah, that's the Outback. I have it all on DVD from eBay from my college years of like eBay exists suddenly. I think when we were freshmen in college it was like eBay exists and I'm like, you mean I could buy shit from places that I don't need to go hunt? Done. And I bought like all of Invader Zim on like DVD.
Worth it?
Right.
Totally. And I bought all of the Max on DVD.
This is illegal DVDs, right?
These are completely legitimately purchased for me from a third party. Yes, they're illegal DVDs.
Of course.
You were saying the quality
The
was
current
pretty good.
DVDs of the Max look pretty much as good as the bootleg DVDs that I bought from like 10 years ago. So anyway, yeah. But the Max is a tight cartoon, much like the Spawn cartoon.
There was a Spawn cartoon?
Oh, man.
Oh, that's the one that was on HBO.
It was on HBO. It had 3 seasons, I think, and
Wow.
violence, nudity, mature situations, boring as fuck. But really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I remember...
Did it also follow the comic?
No, it took the basic principle of the comic, but it did its own thing.
It had its own story.
It did. It was like Law and Order SVU meets Spawn, plus like some kind of really dark, boring drama.
So wait, he solved crimes?
No, the people around him solved crimes. Spawn, for the most part, just kind of cried and complained. Which isn't really too dissimilar from the comic series.
Right. Well, maybe we should talk about what...
All right, well, let's talk about it. I bought Spawn from issue 1 to issue 50. And then I thought, I think this is getting to be kind of bullshit. Let me buy the next 10 issues and see if I'm right.
I'll just make sure.
Yeah. 10 issues later, I went, I think it's going somewhere. Another 10 issues later, I went, this is not going anywhere. I stopped reading, and then I remember reading that issue 100 was going to come out and it was going to change everything. Because when McFarlane came out with Spawn, he said, I have 100 issues planned, and once that's done, Spawn is over.
Right.
Because Todd McFarlane had big dreams and big plans.
To make toys.
Well, I don't even think he even planned to make toys at that point, but yes, he eventually made toys, and
Right.
that was his, baby. But... as it turns out, Todd McFarlane has one idea, and it's called Spawn. And when issue 100 came out, he kind of made good on his word, where he changed things, but it's up to
It kept going.
It kept
Still
going.
Spawn comics.
Yep, still Spawn.
And Spawn is still the main character.
Spawn's still.
He's not dead.
Spawn's always there is a new Spawn now.
Oh, okay.
Wait, there's not
Al Simmons is not Spawn anymore, but I don't read that, so I don't know shit about it. Folk at home, if you currently read Spawn, kudos to you. I'm sure it's probably way more interesting than it was back in the day, but I have no interest in Spawn either before or now, so sorry. But yeah, when it first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. And man, the art was really fucking awesome, because McFarlane was just unmatched and unfettered. He was unhinged. He was off the chain. And I say that both as a double entendre for our hilarious Christmas special, which you can click right here to check out, and because Spawn is adorned in nothing but chains.
Nothing is more 90s than chains.
Does he use the chains, or do they just come with
The chains are part of his living costume,
Okay.
and they
They
come
animate.
alive. They animate. They
Okay.
can subdue
They have
foes.
minds of their own?
Well, they
they have.
they're more
his
like
mind.
appendages. They're more like extra arms.
If the chains get cut, does he feel pain?
I think he feels his suit feels pain.
But I mean, you can't really
His
cut
suit
chain.
has its own consciousness?
Yeah, his suit is like a living demon thing. There's this guy, there's Al Simmons, he's a lieutenant colonel, I think, and he works for the government, and he's also a special black ops mercenary type guy.
That much I know.
Well, wait,
He's
yeah.
kind of.
Is he a mercenary, or does he work for the government? Because it's
Well,
different. Like,
sometimes
a mercenary,
he'll
works for whoever.
Sometimes he'll get hired out by
So he,
other.
moonlights.
Yeah, he moonlights as a mercenary.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because the government doesn't pay that good.
Yeah,
Right.
but he does work directly for the government on special off-the-books black ops missions.
Okay.
The real dirty shit that you don't want to hear about. That's what Al Simmons does.
Right, okay.
So Al Simmons, he's married to a chick named Wanda. Wanda Blake and he are married for a number of years, and they want to have kids, but Al Simmons doesn't have any lead in the pencil, as it were.
Oh,
So no kids for Simmons, and
Okay.
this is important.
He could adopt.
Yeah, but no,
bad.
those aren't my children.
I
oh, is that his mentality?
I mean, otherwise they would have probably adopted.
Gotcha.
Well, does it ever come up? Does she ever be like, we could have a kid?
Yeah, I think it does come up, but way after I stopped reading.
Oh, okay.
I say that because it gets hairy. But when it first starts off, the basic premise is Al Simmons is murdered by a friend named Chapel, similarly trained mercenary type guy.
Okay.
Chapel winds up actually, after he kills Simmons and kind of feels bad about it, he joins Youngblood, the team on Image, which has a bunch of other dumb characters.
Did McFarlane invent him, or did somebody else
No,
invent him?
Rob Liefeld, a partner / hated enemy of McFarlane created Chapel, along with the team of Youngblood. It was everyone who came to the table at Image said, "Here are my characters. Here's the characters that I created, and they're going to be part of the same universe."
Right.
And
they just
McFarlane
figure
said,
out
"Here's
ways to
Spawn."
fit them into each other.
Yeah, and people kind of just like, and if they didn't want to work together, they didn't have to. But
Right.
like Liefeld and McFarlane at the time were like, "Oh man, it's gonna be so cool!" And Chapel, your guy killed my guy like 5 years ago, and
The name Chapel sounds somewhat holy.
yeah, well, it's definitely
So-
invoking that imagery.
It really sounds like, Spawn being from hell and this guy Chapel being a good guy. They're opposing.
But he's not a good guy.
But he's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. Like he's a
bad guy.
He's a real bad guy. And he paints a skull on his face when he's in the field.
Well,
So he's kind of like someone who was in the Crusades.
Yeah, a little bit actually. Yeah.
Like,
There's a
Holy
guy in
Knight,
Call of Duty
but they're
has
kind of a
skull
dick.
painted on his face. He's not
Yeah.
evil.
No,
He's
I'm just saying. I'm giving you some imagery so you know what Chapel kind of looks
And the
like.
Punisher has a skull on his t-shirt.
Yeah.
But he doesn't paint it on his fucking face.
It's more intense if it's on your face.
It's
I
true. It makes you
Well,
people
no,
think,
just-
what a lunatic. Why
Well,
would he paint a skull on his
Makes
face?
you
Right.
think that it's either New Orleans, or Mardi Gras,
or Day of the Dead.
or Voodoo.
Yeah.
Chapel betrays and kills Al Simmons. Al Simmons goes to hell. He learns that there are 9 circles of hell, and each circle is run by its own demonic leader. So there's no, like, Satan. There's more, like, Satans.
So there's more like the Committee of Satan.
No, there
Yeah.
were like 7 circles.
Yeah, but there's 9 in Spawn.
Well, Dante has.
So he ripped off that idea from Dante, and then he arbitrarily changed the
I don't even give McFarlane the credit that he read or was aware
I
of
see.
Dante.
He just
I think
heard
of Circles of Hell,
right.
made up 9 of them, and then Spawn came from one of them. Now, the leader of the 9th circle, or whatever circle is in those 9, is Malbolge. And Malbolge is just this big demon-looking dude who is a sadistic son of a bitch who has aspirations to control all of hell.
Okay.
So he wants to be Satan.
He wants to be,
The one devil.
Satan, yeah. And he has been collecting souls and amassing an army of damned people and creating what are known as hell spawns, or Spawn for short. He has access to these, like, living costume type creature things, and that all look like Spawn.
Okay.
So there are many spawns.
Yes,
So
and
this is
every
called
Al Simmons is
Spawn,
one of them.
But he's just a Spawn.
he's a Spawn,
He's not
exactly.
the Spawn.
He's not the Spawn. Well, he's the Spawn of this generation.
But only Malbolge has access to these souls
Yeah.
and this weird armor.
yeah, so when Spawn first shows up, there's a power meter, and it has like 4 numbers. And once that number reaches 0, so that you as the reader know, Spawn's going to run out of power eventually.
Right.
And he's going
And
to
the
go to
comic
hell,
will
and then it'll
end.
be over. And the
Right.
comic will be over. Which, of course, it was not. Because Spawn kept using power like nobody's business, and that power meter went down a lot faster than people expected. But so
So like
there's
by
a-
issue 4, you're just like, he's down for
yeah,
1!
he's fucked.
Ah!
So there's an incentive for you to conserve your power as a Spawn, and there's the expectation that eventually your gift or your promise runs out, and then you got to make good on your promise.
Okay.
So in the case of Al Simmons, he goes to hell. Malbolge pops into him first, and by the way, Al Simmons is a elite, special trained mercenary / soldier. He is like the killer's killer.
He's the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
If he's so expert, how come Chapel took him out?
Because he wasn't expecting his friend to shoot him in the back.
So, I gotta just stick it with a meter for a second. After your meter runs out, you go back and you're still a Spawn, but you're in hell.
Yep.
And you're just a soldier.
Yep, and you
So-
wait there until the war happens.
Okay.
Is Spawn aware of his meter?
Yes.
Like he sees it?
Does
he
he
does
have,
like
like,
an
a bar on
HUD
his
No,
kind of
wrist?
thing?
Spawn does not see the meter, only we see the meter. He is only aware that there's a finite amount of
So
power.
he has no idea.
No idea when he's gonna... He could be in the
okay.
middle of saving the world, and then all of a
Right.
sudden he'd run out of power, and he'd go to hell.
I was going to say, so he knows there's a meter, but he doesn't know how much is in the meter.
That's right.
Right.
Now, I think that there's kind of like an idea... Like, because when Spawn shows up... Okay, let's get back to... so Spawn goes to hell, he meets Malbolge, and Malbolge
Right,
says, I need you in my army. What do you want?
Because you're such a badass.
And Spawn says...
He's so badass and cool.
Exactly. So Spawn says, I want to see my wife again. And that's all he says. And Malbolge's like, you got it. So he makes him a Spawn and then sends him to Earth 5 years after he died. So Spawn shows up 5 years in the future where his wife, Wanda, is remarried to his best friend, Terry. Terry
okay.
Fitzgerald worked at the CIA with Simmons at one point, but he didn't betray him or anything.
Should we describe the Spawn's appearance?
Oh, sure. When Spawn first shows up, he wakes up, by the way, in the alleys of New York City. And, or it's kind of unclear what city it is, but it's clearly New York City.
It looks like New York. Yeah.
So he wakes up in the alleys of New York City, and he's like, what the fuck is all this silly shit all over my body? And he takes off his mask and his glove, and he finds that he is a charred corpse underneath. And in fact...
Was his corpse charred by Chapel? Or did they just...
Yes, but it wasn't his body that is in Spawn. It's his soul/consciousness that's in this new body.
Okay.
But it's not the Al Simmons body. The Al Simmons body is still in the coffin in the ground.
Okay.
The body that's here is a shell created from necroplasmic. It's held together by necroplasmic magic.
Okay.
And the suit is actually kind of like bonded with it. Not unlike Spider-Man or Venom and the Venom suit.
Yeah.
Okay. And he kind of looks like a sausage.
Yeah, and if he so if he goes and sees Wanda, he's going to be like, Wanda, it's me!
Right.
Don't you remember my 7-foot-tall, burnt-up body?
That wasn't there?
It's not...
No?
So, in fact, Malbolge is like, yeah, I fucked you big time. Like, you got to see her through the window.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what you wanted.
So anyway, you're done.
Yep.
But it's also...
But he's not done, because he still gets to hang out until his power
Yes,
comes down.
and the idea that Malbolge had in store for him was, you're going to use your powers and kind of fuck around on Earth, and it'll help train you.
Oh, in using the Spawn abilities.
Yeah, and he sends an emissary of his to Earth to
You
kind
wouldn't
of...
do that in hell?
Yeah.
Well, like there wouldn't be this big training center just in the Ninth Circle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also a great way to cause mayhem and destruction.
Right.
And
on
probably
Earth.
get more souls down
And
into
get
hell.
more souls down to hell, because if Al Simmons is going to deal with anybody on Earth, it's probably going to be people who are going to hell.
Right.
So, Malbolge sends an emissary up to Earth to kind of keep tabs on him and keep him focused, keep him on the prize, and that is Violator.
Yep.
And Violator is a huge, open-mouthed, looks like Venom from the Eric Larson book we read in the first issue.
Okay.
With this
which should be
giant underbite.
right here. But Violator is just this huge, weirdly designed demon, and when he needs to infiltrate real life, when he needs to like walk around, he looks like Danny DeVito in a clown costume.
That's insane.
Oh, why they didn't get Danny DeVito for the movie is beyond
Probably because
me.
Danny doesn't fucking know. Instead they had John Leguizamo.
In a fat suit.
And by the way, I think John Leguizamo did as best he could with that material, but that movie is goddamn unforgivable. So bad. It's so It's so bad, and it's bad by Spawn standards. It's bad.
That's pretty bad.
So anyway, Violator shows up. He's like, "Hey, keep your eyes on the prize," and he explains the whole premise
What
that I'm
is the
explaining to you.
prize?
The prize is like, you got to see your wife, so now you got to do what I tell you, and what I want you to do is start killing bad guys.
Okay.
And Spawn's like, "No, fuck you," and he goes back to the alleys, and he sits there and he cries for like the rest of the comic.
Oh my god.
And along the way, Spawn encounters different people, and he winds up fucking up people's lives by in a kind of butterfly effect little like way.
Okay.
Spawn, while in the alleys, he encounters like a Obi-Wan Kenobi type character named Cagliostro, who's created by Neil Gaiman. During the time of this book, Image had been making waves and pissing off the big two, Marvel and DC. And so indie creators were really attracted to Image and wanted to get in on the action.
Because they own their own creations at that
Right.
Since all the creators at Image weren't writers, this worked out great for a lot of these terrific, independent, prolific writers. So, Todd Mcfarlane wrote and drew Spawn. And I think he drew up to issue 8. And then Cerberus creator David Sim wrote issue 8, I think. But it doesn't. I'm not even going to apply the numbers because I'm getting it all wrong. But like, Dave Sim got to write an issue. Neil Gaiman wrote an issue. Frank Miller wrote an issue.
Oh wow.
And Alan Moore wrote an issue
Spawn?
of Spawn.
Oh my god.
Alan Moore wrote a lot of Youngblood. Like, and it's so dumb. But Alan Moore wrote it, and so people were like, "Oh, I have to read it," and it's so dumb. But he tries.
Was it just not really his like medium?
It was just like, he
style?
goes, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do here." So there's all these crazy assholes, and they're just doing stuff, right? I don't know. That's
What?
That's just
Why
him.
did he do it?
Because he's like, I want.
he wants to make
Because
money.
he knew.
Yeah.
Well, A, he wants to make money, but B, he wants to piss off Marvel. He wants to be like, "Oh, I'll say yeah to them. I'll do Youngblood. That sounds good to me. You want me to write Batman, huh? I think I'll write Youngblood. Yeah.
Piss off DC.
What do you think of that?
He's in
Yeah.
Marvel.
Well, Marvel and DC. Like, I'll write.
The establishment.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't matter who it is, so
Right.
long as it's the man.
Because he's Alan Moore.
Because he's Alan fucking Moore.
Yeah.
Wiccan and part-time evil Santa Claus. And part-time comic book writer. So a bunch of different people wrote for Spawn, but the interesting thing was Image had that policy in place.
Right.
You create something for Image.
So if you create a character in one random Spawn issue...
It's your character! So in the case of Neil Gaiman wrote Spawn number 9, in which he introduced Cagliostro, Spawn's mentor, and Angela, the angel character that would be iconic and throughout the whole series, and medieval Spawn, the Spawn of the medieval times. And McFarlane assumed, because he wasn't a businessman, that those were his characters.
Right.
So when he created his toy company, he made Angela medieval Spawn, and I don't think he made a Cagliostro figure, but he made those 2 figures, and he made a boatload of cash on them. And then Neil Gaiman called up and was like, so where's my cut? Since they're my characters. And they have been in a legal fight since then.
Oh my
They've been
God.
fighting,
Really?
Yeah, they've been fighting for years over Angela, over Cagliostro, and over another character called Miracle Man / Marvel Man that I don't even want to talk about. Let's not even get into it. It doesn't matter. But Neil Gaiman and McFarlane are not friends.
Let me ask you about Angela for a sec.
Yeah.
Did she only appear in that one issue?
She
or did
first appeared in that issue,
Okay.
and then would appear, and then McFarlane would just
make
put her in. Yeah.
Okay. But because Gaiman created her, he drew her first.
He is entitled
No, he
to
wrote
royalties of that character.
Did Gaiman draw it?
No.
Well, yeah.
No, but he did create
invented
it.
the
Yeah.
concept.
And
of
he
the
probably
character.
designed her.
Yeah. So, is he entitled to royalties from the sales of those issues that featured her as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's... Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So McFarlane was like, I'm not paying that. Especially now that the comic market's
How could McFarlane not know that, though? That was the founding principle
I
of
know.
fucking Image, and he was, like, one of the first guys.
Because he's like, it's my comic.
That's directly opposite to what the whole purpose
I
of the
know.
company was.
I think he figured out what a bad deal that was. And so he's like,
Well, no, he figured that as
oh.
long as the comic has his name, like his character's name, he owns everything in it.
yeah,
And
like
it's
you're
not he
contributing
owns
to my
everything in
universe. You're not building new ground, even though he totally
That's like
did.
that's a...
That's a legal loophole.
Yeah,
It's probably
that's not
because
bullshit.
he
Yeah.
didn't start Spawn as a character in someone else's book. So he didn't have that knowledge.
No, he didn't have
He
any
started
idea.
his own book. He's just like, no, this is Spawn, and I created this world. It interacts with this whole universe of these other people, but this is Spawn.
Yeah, it's
And
mine.
other people are writing into it, just like, all right, well then they're part of Spawn.
Yeah.
But Chapel
Oh.
was in Spawn, but was created by somebody else. So
Yes.
he knows that he doesn't own Chapel. So
Right,
what made him
Chapel was
think that
created
he owned-
first.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah, but...
And Chapel didn't first appear in a Spawn book.
Right. But if someone invents Angel and puts him in a Spawn book and then wants to create an Angel book,
Yeah.
he doesn't own that.
Oh, and he did do an Angela book.
McFarlane
Eventually.
did?
Well, I don't think he even wrote it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it's a mess. So
Oh,
don't
Image.
do that. So anyway, so you get introduced to these characters, and there's like a mob boss named Tony Twist, and he's like trying to gain control of the underworld, and he's got a lot of goings on in the alleys, and Spawn inadvertently causes a mob war because he's like, get the fuck out of my alleys, and he starts murdering mob enforcers. And Tony Twist's like, who's this guy killing my mob guys? He must be like either a cop or he's a vigilante.
Right.
And Spawn's like, no, I don't give a fuck about you, I just don't like these people in my place where I'm sleeping.
Right.
And
Why is he sleeping?
This is my
well,
bed.
because he has no place to go.
Because
Who's
he's
gonna
a
put him
burnt
up?
husk.
Yeah, and when he's not a burnt husk, he's a clown.
Well, he could hang out in a building.
He does. He
He
usually
could
hangs out in a
squat.
church and like cries. So, and all these different characters
Why
spawn
does he
out of
cry in
it.
churks?
Well, because it looks
He's
cool.
a hell spawn.
Because he
so
looks
it's,
really
like,
cool.
ironic.
Exactly.
Well, it's a soul, man.
Yeah, he just wants to go home.
Does he pray?
No.
Or...
It
No,
doesn't
he
like
doesn't-
hurt him to be in the church.
No, there's no like vampire rules. It's just no.
Like sacred ground.
Nope.
No
Okay.
Highlander
No
stuff.
Highlander stuff. No.
Let's talk about the rules. Let's talk about his powers.
Okay. Spawn's
What are
powers.
his powers?
What are his powers? He's super strong.
Okay.
But is that from the body?
That's from the body.
Okay.
He's super strong. He can produce necroplasmic energy out of his hands.
What does that do? What does that mean?
It creates a green orb type thing, and then he can shoot it like a laser beam out of his hands.
Okay. So it's like an energy blast.
It's like an energy blast, yeah. And he has control over his costume, which has its own set of powers. Like the chains I said, like
Right.
can come to life. His cape can also come, like be
strangle somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we saw in the movie.
Yeah.
What are the powers
Falls on
that
the
his
bike.
enormous collar has?
The power to sell comic books. He
And the
looks
giant
super
spikes
cool.
on the back of his fist.
Yeah.
Which are
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
retarded. They're here.
They're
If you
gigantic.
punch someone, you're punching them with this.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna like back fist
These are
them.
mostly
Yeah.
just decorative.
Yeah.
What Cagliostro explains in one of the early issues is he can actually draw energy from the costume without drawing energy from his power meter. So
the costume has its own energy?
Yes.
But it's like an unlimited supply.
Yeah,
right?
but it's also a symbiote, kind of, so you can't just keep using it or else it'll fucking drain and die,
Right,
and then
you
you'll go
get
to hell
tired.
anyway. Yeah. So
you have to feed it with what?
you give it time.
Yeah,
Just let it regenerate.
Just replenishes.
Yeah.
It's a power meter that's like constantly replenishing, unlike his other power meter, which is constantly declining.
Exactly.
Like when you play Soul Calibur 2 and you have a weapon that just constantly replenishes
Drains
your
you-
health meter.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, even if you keep getting hit, it just keeps going up
It
a little
keeps
bit.
There's also another
But if
sword
you
that
keep
can-
using it too much, you're still gonna die.
Yeah, it's true.
Why does his fingers have claws?
Because that's what the body is. It's not really a human body. It's more like a
Right.
necroplasmic, zombie
Stop
body.
saying necroplasmic.
Well, that's what it is.
It's a zombie body.
It's a zombie body.
Saying
but
necroplasmic
doesn't
doesn't
mean
clarify anything.
No, McFarlane only drew the first 10 to 20 issues of Spawn, and
Really?
and then he was like, fuck that, and he called up a guy named Greg Capullo, who is currently drawing Batman. Guy has range. He's great. Immediately stepped up his game.
Oh.
Immediately made
Visual.
Spawn look better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Capullo and the colorist whose name escapes me, and that sucks because that's how colorists are in comics. We just don't remember your names, and that sucks.
Sorry.
I'm going to look it up and put it right down here. But the colors for that book at the time really made Capullo's art shine. And damn.
So just they created Image so that they could draw
cool things.
that
they like.
So they
yeah.
didn't have to draw other people's stuff.
Yes, they
and
could
so
draw their own stuff.
20 issues in, what does he do? He hires someone else
To draw his stuff.
other people's stuff.
No, to draw his stuff.
to draw
Yeah.
his stuff.
Yeah.
But he's doing to that guy what
What-
Marvel and DC were doing to them.
their artists,
Didn't
yeah.
they see the irony?
I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure everyone else did, though. Because it's glaring at this
Yeah.
point, especially
'Cause
with
if
this.
I'm Greg Capullo or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fuck these hypocrites.
Yeah, why don't I
Like,
create my own company?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't get to. So I just get to draw Spawn. I don't get to actually,
Do anything
with
creative
it.
with them, yeah. Besides drawing.
That's the exact same fucking thing.
Yep.
How much
that
you want
DC
to bet,
and Marvel
he would
Yeah.
draw a character in the background, just like a little guy, and be like,
Yeah.
he doesn't
That's
have
my
a line,
character.
but that's my guy, and I'm going to put it in my own book, and
And
he's
he
going
was
to call background.
It's so shameless. McFarlane actually, when he wound up creating his toy company, which actually came out around probably 95, 96, so mid-range of Spawn, so around the same time as the beginnings of Spawn, he would create characters and put them in the book just to make them into action figures. He created a mob enforcer named Overkill, who's like a cyborg. And he was just an action figure. He created a guy named Tremor who looked like a terror dog from Ghostbusters, but with the Hulk's body. Action figure. He created a character named Cygor, who was a cyborg gorilla. And he loved Cygor. That figure came out first. He came out with that figure, and then he was like, don't worry, guys. Cygor's origin is fucking awesome. You're going to love it. And then eventually, a year or two later, Cygor shows up, and it's stupid because it's a fucking cyborg gorilla that he'd sold toys of, and then was like, I legitimized it by putting it in my comic.
Right.
And he came out with 3 different versions of the Cygor. He was like, okay, Cygor came out and he was cool, but I could do that better. And he redesigned Cygor, and he made a new figure of Cygor, and then another Cygor.
What is wrong with this guy? Why is he obsessed with
Cybernetic gorillas
dumb
and just
fucking
random
idea?
I don't know.
Money.
Well,
But
he
why
loves
would
money,
he think
but
that would make him any money?
he created a
This
character.
was the 90s. Transformers were huge at this point.
Yeah, Transformers is a concept that makes sense.
It's a
Cygor
toy
is
that you can turn into other toys.
Yeah,
like
but
Cygor is a gorilla.
joke. What about that? Is a joke that someone would make about toy. Oh yeah, you can make anything as a toy. You can make a cyborg gorilla.
Yep.
Bleh.
And we'll call him Cygor.
Then we'll go Cygor.
Yeah, but what about Transformers when they turned into animals?
That's Beast Wars.
Beast Wars. When did that come out?
So that came out in like late 90s.
Beast Wars was a line of toys. If McFarlane was making a line of crossing cyborgs with animals, then I would say, okay, Cygor, fine. He's
Right.
just one of the...
No, but Cygor is just one character
Yeah,
that he
he
made
just-
up
he
and then
just
put
put
into
all
his
this
comic
time
about
and
a
effort
guy
into
who's
one
also a Spawn.
random-ass character.
Yep.
Well, you're
who makes-
crossing the entire idea of some sort of celestial power and hell power
Yeah.
in this.
Right.
Why can't a gorilla suddenly be
But
part
where
of
does
it?
that, like, where does the logic come from?
There is
Your
no
train
logic.
of logic
Yeah,
from.
I've got.
Because he.
I've got
How does any
Hellspawn,
logic come
and
from
I've
any
got
of what he's done
Cyborg
so far?
Gorilla.
Because at least they're somewhere related. When he creates these characters like Overt Kill, alright, that's an action figure that he created, but he at least made it a mob enforcer for a character that he created before he created the toys.
Who was a cyborg, though?
Who was also Cyborg.
Right.
Well, he
That's
likes
related to the
robots and
mob.
people. Who's related to the mob. Then he creates, I mean, like Neil Gaiman creates Angela, but he uses Angela. He creates a character called the Redeemer, who's like he's like an entity that exists that angels or that heaven picks a person and says, you're going to be the Redeemer right now. And then the Redeemer like goes into their body and makes them into the Redeemer. And then the Redeemer fights Spawn.
So it's sticking with the religious.
It's sticking with the religious overtones. And then he created a guy named Curse. And Curse was a guy who was also a cyborg. He was just a dude with like half robot shit. And he believed that he was an emissary from God. And he believed it was his divine purpose to stop and destroy Spawn.
Right.
And he like actually captures Spawn and cuts him into many different pieces. And then starts like analyzing all the pieces and collects his necroplasm and puts it in buckets. And then his costume fucking comes to life, scoops up all his body parts and then reassembles them in the costume. And in the comic, the line is something like a deformed Raggedy Andy. He shambles back to life. I'm like, a deformed Raggedy Andy? Yates, this is not. But Curse is also a god, heaven-related character.
Cygor
is a
cybernetic gorilla.
Where do animals go when they die?
They don't go anywhere because they're animals.
Was it a hell gorilla?
No,
no,
he was just a gorilla.
regular gorilla.
It was just
cyborg.
a genetic experiment. on a
See, he
ride.
should have come from hell. Then
I-
there's at
Then
least
I
a
would
loophole.
grant that there's
Yes, if they were
some
like
connection.
and gorillas also go to hell.